This is from my other book, In the Days of the Salem Witch Trials. This sums up the whole thing. The Salem witchcraft panic began with personal fear, grew with neighborhood suspicion, and then spread through the region fueled by the time's tensions. The idea of a witch conspiracy was always unusual, but a possible attack from hell seemed less surprising then, when the people's religion, economy, and even their lives were at risk from so many earthly threats. Outside invasion from Canada was one of them. Salem villages, in addition, were quarreling with other towns about boundaries, with Salem over local rule, and with each other about what pay had been promised to their minister. Throughout the spring and summer of 1692, about 60 people appeared to be bewitched. Not all of them testified in court, but 6 bewitched people actually died. About 150 of more than 200 witch suspects were arrested. Most of them lived in Salem Village and other parts of Salem, nearly as many in Andover, and the rest was scattered throughout 3 counties. About 10 other people were accused in western Connecticut, far from Salem. Suspects ranged from wealthy to impoverished, from saintly to cantankerous. Most were older women. 2 of the executed men were apparently wife-beaters. Some suspects were noticeably eccentric, but so were some of the bewitched. A few supposed witches practiced folk magic, but so did some of the accusers. Some were never arrested at all, and one man taken in for questioning was released. Many confessed, while others died rather than lie. It was all a tangle of confusion. But even such a hidden work of darkness as the 1692 trials, people felt, had to have some lesson in it at least. Eventually, even those who had most trusted spectral evidence realized how contradictory it was. They slowly understood that panic must not be allowed to let fear and resentment judge unproven acts. Their real pain and fear did not mean their accusations were true. 20 people had been killed and others died of disease in jail because this had been forgotten. But disasters caused by even good intentions still required an apology, and the sooner the better, and some kind of payment to patch up damaged lives. Together, the public fast in 1697, which apologized for it, the reversal of attainder in 1711, which removed the onus on the people who had been formally condemned, and the restitution of payments in 1712 were only the 3rd official apology in the history of Western witchcraft trials. Nevertheless, the Salem cases became a symbol for all witchcraft trials, even when other larger scares were forgotten. Understanding the events in the contexts of their times and realizing that the people involved were not just cardboard heroes and villains is a reminder that all such tragedies begin with ordinary people like us. Thank you.
Again, folks, if I could have your attention, we're going to begin the second half of the program, and we'd appreciate it if you please take your seats. And for those not paying attention to me, number 1, I don't blame you. And number 2, I suffer from the same disorder. Thanks. Our next guest is a graduate of Emerson College, holds a degree in theater education, and received classical training at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. After she spent some time on Broadway, she came home to Boston. Well, it's not her home, she was raised in New York, to join the Freedom Trail Players, appearing as Abigail Adams. Word of her unique form of education reached the State House of Massachusetts, and in 2003, then-Governor Mitt Romney presented a proclamation naming her as the official Abigail Adams of the Commonwealth. She was also presented with a citation for excellence in teaching from the Governor's Council. Her wide array of characters include Deborah Sampson, Abigail Adams, and Mercy Otis Warren, not Percy, as I wrote here in the program. I would like to introduce to you, portraying Mother Goose, please welcome Julia Donahue.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming back for Act 2. So far this evening, we have touched on almost every taboo. We have discussed religion, we have discussed politics, and weather and criminals. And other than that, there actually is only one other thing I can think of, and that's where I come in, and that's how other people try to teach your children. John asked me to come here tonight to portray Mother Goose for you, but to do an adult version of Mother Goose, which I don't think I've ever used those phrases in the same sentence, adult version of Mother Goose. So let us then try to take the mystery out of the history, because Mother Goose really was a real person. Now, there was a man called Isaac Vergoes. Vergoes. Can you say Vergoes? No, that's not bad, but most people couldn't say Vergoes. A similar problem he had, as other men of the colonial times, another one called Apollos Revoir. Who can say that? Changed his name to Paul Revere. Yes, another man, Peter Faneuil. Faneuil as in Faneuil Hall. His name is spelled in a French way, and people said Faneuil. Faneuil. His name was pronounced Faneuil. But how stupid do you look trying to say that? So he also changed his name. Anyway, back to Isaac. Isaac was just a regular man. If you want to turn that sound down so I don't flick like that. Can you hear me in the back without the mic?
Yes.
Good enough then. Never to say that Mother Goose didn't have a big mouth. Anyway, Isaac dropped the bear, kept the goose, and married a woman called Mary. Mary proceeded to give him 10 children and then promptly died. Knowing that Isaac could not be the father of 10 children as a single man, he quickly married a girl called Elizabeth Foster from Charlestown. And she became Elizabeth Foster Goose and then proceeded to present him with an additional 10 children. You can't tell me he didn't know what to do. Come on now, really. Now, let's talk a little bit about that. So, Mary, dead now, with her 10 children, Elizabeth, with those 10 she adopted and 10 more of her own. Can you imagine being the mother of 20 children? Can you imagine, now from a child's point of view, can you imagine the size of the table at Christmas? Can you imagine that if you were at one end and the smashed potatoes were at the other end, you probably would be hungry. But can you imagine how many presents you would get? And how many presents you'd have to give? Elizabeth had her hands full with these children, and she needed to keep them entertained. And the children ranged from older to younger, so the older children were able to help her take care of the younger children. But in those days, there were no supermarkets as you have them today, where you could go shopping in one place and take care of everything. Elizabeth had to take all the children in tow, to the baker to buy the bread, to the meat man to buy the meat, and the greengrocer to buy the vegetables, with all of these children in tow, trying to keep their attention. So she made up little poems, and that's what started the Goose poems. So, for instance, to market, to buy a fat pig. Home again, jiggity jig. To market, to buy a fat hog. Home again, jiggity jog. It's a shopping list. It's true, you laugh, but it's true. She didn't laugh because she had the kids entertained now. This is how it all began. So let's go through some of the poems and explain to you that they aren't just only fluff, but they are lessons and they are entertainment. And this is sort of how Elizabeth got along with the children. So let's start. Oh, I love this first one. With all those children, there was a young boy called Jack. And in those poems there's Jack. There's a lot of Jacks in the poems. I don't think there were many sons called Jack. But on Christmas Eve, it was actually, Elizabeth was cooking. And Jack came into the kitchen and he followed her in. And she said, Jack, you must stay away from the oven because it's quite hot and you may do yourself injury. So please go away. And he did. And Elizabeth went over to fix something else, and here comes Jack. She said, Jack, I have told you, please stay away from the fire as you'll do yourself injury. He goes away. She's back here. Who comes to follow? But Jack. Jack, I have told you 3 times now, you will do yourself injury, you will hurt yourself. There is a stool there. Go sit upon the stool and stay out of the kitchen. That is a colonial timeout. Think about it. Little Jack Horner sat in the corner, eating his Christmas pie. Didn't that child play with a spoon? He put in his thumb, and he pulled out a plum. And he said, "What a good boy am I?" And Elizabeth says, "Yes, Jeff, you are a very good boy. Now be away with you and take your cake and go away." It was a lesson. Colonial timeout. It is very true. It goes on with the lessons. And I've got them in the book. Here's another one. Another Jack. Jack be nimble. Jack be quick. What did Jack do? Well, let's think of how stupid that is. Do you allow your little children to jump over fire? No. In today's world, when I talk to the young children of today, and I tell them, jump over the candlestick, you know what they tell me? Stop, drop, and roll. It's a lesson. Don't play with fire. So you think that Mother Goose and all these rhymes are just for naught. They seem like fluff, but they're not really. So well, we're going to quiz you a little bit on this. Let's go back to some more. Sharing. Sharing was a good thing. Do you know how some children, and I imagine some adults as well, you know how you order a pizza? And some people like only the crust, and some people like only the cheese? And all of a sudden now you've got wasted food on one side and wasted food on another side. Well, Jack Sprat would eat no fat. His wife would eat no lean. And so betwixt them both, they licked the platter clean. You don't waste food. This is not a new concept. This is an old concept. Now, we talked about to market. Now, Elizabeth and all of her children, she had a daughter, also called Elizabeth. And Elizabeth married a man who was actually the publisher of the Boston Evening Post. And being that Elizabeth Goose Sr. was the mother-in-law, he published a lot of the poems. You got it sucking up to the in-laws now, don't you? Yeah? Well, he wanted the mother-in-law basically to stop the chatter. And let's take the energy and put it into a book, Mum. Let's do that. So, Elizabeth Foster Goose, Mother Goose, is accredited with many, many poems. But with 20 children, do you really think she wrote them all? So, let us play a game. It will be called Rhyme or No Rhyme. You get it? Yeah? You with me? All right. I will read a poem to you, and you tell me, is it real? Is it Mother Goose, or is it not? We'll start with Hickory Dickory Dock. The mouse ran up the clock. The clock struck 1. The mouse did run. Hickory Dickory Dock. Deal? No deal. What do you think? No deal? You're right, no deal. No, you're not right. No, you're not right. See, it's not as easy as you think. Some of them you will think will be what you call gimmies. You think they're really easy, but maybe they're not. How about this? Rain, rain, go away. Come again another day. Rain, rain, go to Spain and never show your face again. Poem? No? Yes? No. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. Yes? Yes? How many say yes? Who else? Wrong, 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 wrong. All right, here's a good one. Let's see, I had to especially put this one down. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she did not know what to do. Let me find the actual, where did I put this here? She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. So she sent them to bed without any bread. She whipped them all, sent them to bed. She whipped them all and sent them to bed. Do you think perhaps she was having a bad day? Poem? Yes? No. Yeah, you thought this was going to be easy. This Mother Goose was going to all be fluff. No, this is a quiz, and spelling will not count. Georgie Porgy put in pie, kissed the girls and made them cry. Yeah. No. Another side. If Georgie Porgy was nasty, how about this? Peter, Peter, pumpkin eater, had a wife and couldn't keep her. put her in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. Yeah. Yes. Yes, it was not easy to be a single parent of all that. Let's see if there's some, let's go. Here's one. And now you need to join in on this, because if you think it's easy just to sit there in the audience, no, nobody else picked on you, but I will, because I can. How many of you learned these poems when you were children? And how many of you passed these poems on to your children or your grandchildren? You see what you've done? You see what you've done? How about this song? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. All right, Mozart. Good. That's not the question. You're disqualified. There is another poem that has the same tune. I'll leave it to you. Think hard. Don't think that hard. Could be. That's not the one I was going for, because we're not allowed to talk about that one anymore. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat. Where were you brought up? Twinkle, twinkle, little bat. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat.
How I wonder where you're at. Like a peak ray in the sky, up above the world so high.
How I wonder where you're at. Twinkle, twinkle, little tree. How I wonder where you be. No. If you get this right, you will receive an A. If you get it second right, you'll receive a B. If I need to give you another clue, you will receive a C. There you go. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Same song I just had sung to me. All right, so I wrote them, but I can revise them. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and what? Easy, right? Second verse. Then up Jack got and off did trot as fast as he could caper to old Dame Dodd, that's the lady next door, to old Dame Dodd, who patched his nod with vinegar and brown paper. See that look you have on your face? That's the same look of confusion that I have when I sing that to the children. Do you not use vinegar to clean wounds anymore? You're laughing, so I guess not. And brown paper to seal that in? What do you do when your children skin their knees? What's it called? Band-aids? Band-aids. All right, help me here. What's the Band-aid? It's not an idle question. What's a Band-aid? I've heard of this plastic. I learn many things from modern day people. I don't understand plastic. I don't understand. You could probably say that this one just stymies me. I'm stuck on Band-Aid. All right, go ahead. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. This is sort of the humorous part of the evening. Hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. How about Mary and the lamb? And she brought the lamb to school. Huh? Sing a song of sixpence, a pot full of rye, 4 and 20 backwards, baked in a pie. Is this not cruelty to animals? Is it a poem, or is it not? Yes? Who else says yes? You are on your own. Wrong, but on your own. It's a brave man who can stand up to that. So, let's see. Little Jack Horner, twinkle, twinkle, little star. It goes on and on and on. But really, what it was, the poems that Elizabeth told her children and her grandchildren, much to the son-in-law's dismay, were simply ways to keep the children entertained. Simple as that. Now, Mary Goose, the original Mrs. Goose, is buried in the granary burial ground. She died in about 1690. So it was a very long time ago. But people are surprised when they say, you know, oh, Mother Goose has come. It's like, all right, yeah, Mother Goose, okay. She really was a real person. Mary Goose, then Elizabeth Foster Goose. And it was Elizabeth who wrote all of the poems for the children. Question, sir?
How many were political satires?
Many were political satires well after my day. as we've gone through. There are so many poems. Here's one. All right, here's one. It's not a political one, but many of them were political. I think Humpty Dumpty, although that's not an original. How about this one? This is one. There were some short ones that she wrote because you needed a quick little ditty. I'll tell you a story of Jack and Dory, and now my story's begun. I'll tell you another about my brother, and now his story is done. Quick and dirty. Right? How about this one? Now, poem or not a poem? You may know this, but you may not know where it comes from. See if I can do it on one breath. Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously. For Moses, he knows as his toes aren't roses, as Moses supposes his toes is to be. Poem? Rhyme? Oh, no rhyme. You say no. Where do you know this from? Anyone? Singing in the Rain. Do you think they made it up for the movie? No. Poem. Yeah. That always gets them because they always think, oh, that's a trick question. That's a trick question. It's not. And then there were simple things like counting. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. Those are just little lessons. Hey diddle diddle, that was another silly one. Song of Sixpence, Mary and the Lamb. Are there any? Oh, here's one. This is a good one. Because children love bugs. Especially modern children really love bugs. Little Miss Muffet. She sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Do you know what curds and whey are?
For making cheese.
Cottage cheese. You know large curd or small curd, cottage cheese? The white part is the curd and the liquid part is the whey. Curds and whey. Little Miss Muffet must have been fat as she was sitting on top of eating cottage cheese. Along came a spider, sat down beside her, and frightened little Miss Muffet away. Which brings you into that other song about that poor little spider who kept getting rained off the drain. Same deal. Bugs. The children like that. And they would spend time with no books and no those things. They watched the little creatures of the land. They watched the bugs. They watched the spiders. It kept them entertained. So yet again, something else to keep them going. Moses again, and Peter the Pumpkin Eater. There are so many. Jack and Dory, Jack Sprat. Are there any that you can think of from your childhood that you've always wondered, where'd that come from? Not a one. There's one.
This little piggy said, I want some corn. This little piggy said, where will you get it? This little piggy said, in Grandpa's barn. And this little piggy said, I will tell. And this little piggy said, wee, 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 can't get over the door sill.
I wonder what kind of grain Grandpa really had in his barn. Sorry, well, you get that. It's all right. No, you had one. Did you have one?
Wee Willie Winky.
Oh, you like this one. Wee Willie Winky. He liked to look in people's windows. And why they would call him Wee Willie Winky, I didn't write that one. It's a children's show. You wanted adult. How am I doing with the adult part? Am I doing all right? So, this is just a little bit to give you an idea of it's not all about serious history, but this is also about some fun history that was history that was transformed into what is now modern history and giggles. And still you will tell your children and your grandchildren about all of these little poems. And when they come back to you and tell you, oh, Granny, I've learned a new poem, and it's called Wee Willie Winky. Don't crack up. You must maintain your composure. You must. Because if I can get by with people writing all these other poems and giving me credit for the ones about the pumpkin guy who keeps his wife in a shell, a woman who lives in a shoe and beats her children, how about the mice? Not only were they blind, but she maimed them. Is that the sort of thing that puts your child to dreamland? I think not. So although history tends to repeat itself, sometimes what is repeated is really not history at all. So on that, I hope you had a giggle with this. And as you say in your modern day, that's my time. I'm Elizabeth Goose. If you have any questions. Thank you.
Folks, Julia Donahue. Yeah. Just a sidebar, when I spoke with Julia a few months ago, she said, I've never done it for adults, it's only for kids. I said, you'll handle it. Just show up. And she did, huh? One more round of applause, yeah. Thank you, Julia. Good job, Julia. All right. That was fun. I'll never look at Mother Goose the same way when I look at those rhymes. Wee Willie Winky.